people were discussing in one of the comments on one of the Facebook pages this morning, you know, for it to, you know, he had to step in and say, well, it's in the Rockies. Then he had to step in and say, well, it's in these 4 states. Before that, it was wide open. Well, why would it be wide open? I mean, he said, well, technically you should be thinking, because of these first clues he had to give out. Let's put it this way. Someone said in a comment, could you use only the poem? I'm paraphrasing. Could you use only the poem realistically and find it? And he said no. But by this point, it had gotten to the point where he had said it's, you know, in the Rockies, and it had to be, you know, the map had been published, and he had told in interviews. But before that, it was just the poem, and I think just a couple of hints that he had given out that it's north of Santa Fe in the mountains, and that was it. And I know that's why some people have said, well, it's in New Mexico, because if he was just saying at the very beginning, just saying north of Santa Fe in the mountains, all of this other stuff came as a result of people broadening the search just out north and going into other states like Utah and all these other places. And he was the one that had to kind of redefine the search and then got it down to 4 states in the Rocky Mountains. Before that, it was just the poem, and it was mountains north of Santa Fe. And so that's why a lot of people think it must be in New Mexico. Only problem I have with that, and I think the next thing I'm going to do is really start studying Fenn in New Mexico as a young kid, is I truly do believe, though, that this magic place that he came upon was a place that he probably would have come upon in the summers up in Yellowstone. Now, I know someone said one time, well, could there be other special places that were up around West Yellowstone besides a special place? And he goes, well, yeah, just like your typical really nice places that you find when you're a kid. So he's kind of almost saying, in a sense, yeah, I mean, you know, we all know about those magical places when you're a kid that you remember for the rest of your life, or some may. I certainly have talked about it in the video. It was very personal to me. I'm sure other people went, well, I had no place like that when I was a kid. So, you know what I'm trying to say, though. And he said, well, yeah, there are other places like that. But this place is special beyond that. So what is he saying? It was one of those places, but a little more special than one of those places? Or was he saying, well, you know, yeah, I had my fun spots that I loved as a kid outside of West Yellowstone growing up, but this is different. Depends on how you read it. So anyway, no one has given me the correct solve past the first 2 clues. That was in 2015, August. It seems logical to me that a deep-thinking treasure searcher could use logic to determine an important clue to the location of the treasure. It seems logical to me that a deep-thinking treasure searcher could use logic to determine an important clue to the location of the treasure. It's not what this to me has always haunted me. It's not what they say on the blogs that may be significant. It's what they whisper. I remember there was someone that was on the blogs that was had a name that said Whisper in it. And I kind of remember back then thinking, well, is he referring to this person's comments? Then, of course, we have people discussing the Whispering Cave in Echo Park, where I went. May go back again in Colorado. I'll be honest with you about something, folks. I'm totally confused at this point. I'm just being honest. Because I'm so easily dissuaded. Or redirected. I mean, it's nice to have an open mind, but sometimes your mind can be almost too open. On the other hand, you don't want to spend years just glued to one thing over and over and over. And then Fenn, you know, you find a quote by Fenn that blows it completely out of the water, and you go, oops, that was dumb. I just wasted years and years and years because I could only stick with one thing. My mind's a little more malleable than that. I've been to different places in Colorado, didn't always stick with one place. Can see why Yellowstone's absolutely incredible, but I have to say, I don't go for this fishing regulation thing. I think that's way too specialized, but I understand. I'm not sure Gypsy's Kiss is staying that anymore. I know Toby, I think I don't really watch, I watch his videos every once in a while. I think he had one, it was, I couldn't help but watch because it kind of said, oh my God, the worst day of my life or something. And then it was him, I think he had talked to the rangers in New Mexico and decided that maybe his fishing regulation thing wasn't right. Good for Toby, though, to come out and say it, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's an adult person. You know, made a mistake. I'm not sure. Maybe he's refigured that and it's not as much of a mistake. I don't keep up with him all the time, but you know what I'm saying. You know, he just said, look, I made a mistake. I've been talking about this New Mexico regulation thing for years now. And it's guided me on my hunts. I go talk to some ranger somewhere and... you know, he totally gave me a different understanding of what that all meant to begin with, and so now I'm not so convinced I'm right. Good to say that. Good to put it out there. Good to let other people know what you found out, to whoever deleted their comment with me. Don't be so embarrassed. Don't worry about what people think so much. Don't be embarrassed to be wrong. I'm embarrassed to be... well, that was kind of Freudian, but I guess I'll follow it through. I don't like being wrong. But I have been wrong a few times, and when I've been wrong, I simply say, well, the most recent example was this thing about the thing with Crow, whether that was Fenn anonymous, well, not anonymously, but using another account name, which was Crow. I said it first, just very innocently and naively, it turned out. Well, this is Forrest Fenn. I was talking about these comments and I said, I've got some comments here by a K named Crow, but I think it's Fenn talking as Crow. And of course people push back and say, what that, you can't just, and so I said, okay, you're right, I shouldn't really do that. And I felt a little dumb doing that, but, you know, I don't know. So what? I mean, that's my attitude. Okay, so I learned I'll do it different next time. But if I flat out make a mistake, I have no problem going, you're right, I was wrong. It's not fun. You don't like being dumb or wrong. Hey, I should say wrong. But gosh, I would never delete a post over it because it doesn't mean that much to me. I mean, really. All right, going on with the word of the day clues. I don't want to give, this is 2015, this is Fenn. I don't want to give any more clues, but if I am not too feeble to return the chest when my turn comes, I cannot think of any better place for my bones to rest for a few millennia. Many are giving serious thought to the clues in my poem, but only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. Oh, I just read that. Get out in the mountains. Not many people have come up with the first clue correctly. So this idea for clue was great, except that clue is in so much of the archives, and they were often repetitious, because sometimes you'll hit a truncated version of the comment and you'll see clue, and then later you'll hit a bigger, more words to the comment, and then you realize, oh, I'm reading it over again. People have gone past the first clue, didn't know it. I doubt that anyone will find the blaze before they have figured out the first clue. I think he's overstating the case. I mean, he's basically saying, I doubt you'll find the blaze without finding where warm water is hauled. And that would be everything in between it. You know, that's another thing we almost have to deal with Fenn, right? We have to deal with his sarcasm. And in his ability to just say, oh, when I said that, I was being, or that was a typo. There was one that was he just said, yeah, that was just typo. But it is something that had gotten, I forget what it was, but it's something that had gotten people off on this tangent. And finally someone asked Fenn, you know, later on, and he's like, oh, that was just typo. Fenn takes it very seriously, but on another level, he doesn't take it as seriously as some people. I'm sure some people, you know, blew a plane ticket and a week treasure hunt on something that later on they pick up a thing by Fenn, and he's saying, "Oh, that was a typo." pretty funny, isn't it? In a way. In a way, I think it is. I mean, there's something, I'm not getting to clues very much today, and I apologize to Carly, but I mean, the clues is so, it's such a big word, such a big, there's no, in looking at all these clues here today, there was nothing earth-shaking about the word clue. There are the 9 clues, and he keeps saying no one's really figured it out from the clues. I mean, I could just sum it up pretty much. But there is this kind of, gosh, I think of people like that have been out and done this. I'm thinking of people like Neitzel and others who I think have done these hunts. I suspect some of these people have a lot of money, more than I do for sure. And certainly a lot more than some others who can't even make a BOTG because they don't have the money. Some of these people are out there 100 times, 150 times or more. And they just get, it's like, what the hell? I mean, what are your clues if you can go out there like 100 times and you're still not finding it? I just don't get that. But maybe the difference is just having the money to do it, that I don't get that. I guess I could never conceive of spending that much money on 100 treasure hunts, but I would think after about 50 or 40 or 30, you'd start saying, maybe I'm not good at this. You know, maybe I'm just all over the place, that I can't figure out. I mean, it's a finite poem, very short number of words, right? I forget. But it's a very short poem. It's a fairly short book, the first one, and then we have the others I know, but still I'm thinking, really, 100? You've done this 100 times? With a new idea where it must be? I'm assuming if you go 100 times, it's a new idea. Maybe these people are constantly going back to, you know, the same places and just tweaking that blaze part. I don't know, just a little interesting to me. Oh, I thought this was a very good message. This is a very good question. This is from 2014. Someone said, is the poem designed to convey a deeper significance? Is there a subtle message you are sharing with the reader and hope they realize? Here's a quote from 2014 answering something I've been misled on for a long time. I have said more than once, I think you're going to get this message will be revealed to you if you keep reading the poem over and over like he says and then reading the book. And I'm not so sure I think it's a subtle message that becomes revealed. I think it's more like a way of talking that becomes revealed. But that's kind of close to what this guy's saying. He says, is there a subtle message you are sharing with the reader and hope they realize? Fenn says, no, seeker. The poem is straightforward with no subterfuge in sight. Straightforward. Someone in an email asked me if I didn't know where the treasure was and could have the answer to any clue in the poem, which would I choose? I think that question is so funny, and it makes me wonder how Jenny's readers might answer it. Of course, he doesn't give that clue. Straightforward. The poem is straightforward. All the clues are straightforward. There is no subtle message coming through. Now, do I think that negates my idea that there could be kind of a way of talking? You know what I'm saying? Kind of a way of communicating, that if you read it enough, suddenly you get the hang of the communication, and it's not so much a subtle message. It is just learning to read the message straightforwardly. That's what I guess I was really kind of thinking with that. Almost like a shorthand, you know, because the poem is kind of like shorthand to me. It's very chopped up in short, cryptic stanzas, sentences. See, and this is what I say about this thing today. I mean, here again, the problem searchers make is they don't dwell long enough on the first clue. If you can't find the first clue, You know, don't go driving down the street looking for a blaze just because that's one of the clues. You have to start, you can't start in the middle and find the treasure. So again, this constant, I mean, it's really quite simple. There are 9 clues. That's it. There are 9 clues. Warm waters, if you haven't figured out where, I mean, I can just tell you, there are 9 clues. If you haven't figured out where warm waters halt, then none of the rest of it even matters, he has said. You're never going to really find your way if you can't figure out where warm waters halt. It's almost enough to make you think everyone's looking for the clue. It almost makes you think where warm waters halt must be the clue, because he says without where warm waters halt, you can't figure out the poem. You can't find your way to the blaze, hence the treasure.